Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paragon live raid of heroic Firelands. Can we please have a round of applause for the raiders from Paragon? And this time we brought quite a few more. Those of you who watched the DreamHack raid, they were doing a little bit of farm content right there, which was heroic everything else. Now we're just doing heroic Firelands, and this should be quite the challenge. And bringing along one of the members from Paragon, of course, our expert commentator, Verdish.
Hello everybody, how are you today? Is everyone feeling good about the raid, and are you guys expecting to see something that you maybe haven't seen before?
One would think so. Heroic Firelands, especially heroic Ragnaros, only just been downed.
Yeah, we should be able to clear everything else but Ragnaros quite soon. People have already been working on some of the trash, and we should mostly only be seeing the boss fights, which of course should be the most interesting part of the actual raiding, seeing as, well, trash really everyone can do it, so...
Yeah, it's not all that interesting, is it? Whatever the case, there's going to be 7 bosses in this raid, needless to say, and Heroic Ragnaros is the one that you're a little concerned about because you have only just beaten him, and remind me how many attempts it actually took to bring him down the first time.
Well, if I'm totally honest, I haven't really been taking the count, but it's around 500, so it took quite some wipes to actually down him when all of the other bosses, I would say, were pretty much of a face roll, so... Yeah. There is actually some challenge still, even though we do have everything on farm, so-called.
Yeah, and we'll see how you guys manage to actually do right here on Ragnaros. I believe the raid is actually about ready to pull the first boss right here. And if they are ready to get started, then yeah, we shall get going as well. The first boss will, of course, be Bethtalak. So tell me a little bit about this boss in heroic mode.
Well, basically, it's a giant spider. And, well, the difference on heroic mode is actually not that huge. I mean, it has... The numbers are obviously a lot tighter, need more healing, more damage, especially the last phase where there's going to be a ton of raid damage. And there's also these exploding little spiders coming out of all these... holes we soon may be going to be able to see. There's a boomkin on the top left, most likely on the right as well. They're going to be dealing with the little spiders. Here at first, they're pulling down these spinners, so a couple of people can go upstairs where the big spider is waiting. You need a tank there to stop the constant raid damage coming, and then also you want to take a bit of his HP down, seeing as the lower you get him when you actually get to the last phase, the better success you're going to have there.
Yeah, the last phase, if I recall correctly, is actually called Frenzy, and that's where really unpleasant things start to happen.
Yes.
And if I recall correctly, there's a really nasty ability, which means you've got to watch out for the Cinderweb Spiderlings, whereby if Bethtalak actually manages to eat them, she gets 10% of her HP back, which is
yes.
Massive.
Yes, this is actually... This is a thing which was, how to say... it was fixed later on, but at the start when we first time came here, it used to eat the spider from like 50 yards away or something stupid. It was really weird and unpleasant. We had to basically...
Not impossible by the sounds of it.
Well, nothing is impossible, but, well, it took a couple of tries, and today it should be a bit easier. There's also these drones you need to deal with down here, because if you don't kill them in time, they get this web and go back up to the broodmother. So
yeah, and that's a bit of a pain in the ass as well, because they can actually do that same consumability on the spiderlings in order to regain 20% of their HP.
Yeah, they also start doing more damage if this happens.
Not a very nice thing.
Really, the biggest part of this encounter is just quickly taunting down all the spinners and dealing with them. Then the raid damage down here is going to be bearable, and it's going to be okay. You also need to watch out these big drones. They fixate to random people, and when they fixate, they can do this AoE spit onto the raid, which does huge damage if the person does not react fast enough. Also, if he's standing somewhere near the little spiderlings, the eating thing might happen.
Yeah.
So that's... But after all, this is supposed to be entry-level boss, though I would say it's hardest of the first 4.
Interesting.
The numbers on this boss are maybe more extreme than the bosses that we're going to be seeing after this, Lord Rhyolith and Alice Razor and Shannox.
Yeah, Alice Razor is an interesting one, considering that that was the big boss in the PTR that people said, this has got really great mechanics, and it's incredibly simple. Have they done anything to actually resolve that in the launch release on
It's actually a boss which we also killed on the PTR, and we did quite good on it, and it maybe even felt a little bit too easy. There's not too much to it from normal to heroic, so I don't know, they sort of left it. I mean, it's easy, but it's also easy to make a mistake there. Once we get there, I will explain why.
Oh yes, I'm looking forward to that one. That was actually one of the bosses we found to be really fun just because of the way the mechanics were set up, and anyone that got to actually go airborne and fly through the rings and things like that really enjoyed it, although it was a little odd to get used to the mechanics of both flying and actually casting spells at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. Though, it is pretty nice seeing all the haste you get and all the stuff and how much damage you can actually do with this crit buff that you get when you get over 24 of the flame ring buffs.
Yeah, calling me surprised that an Arcane Mage really loves the crit buff.
Arcane Mage is actually not so great there.
Really?
Yeah, because you don't get so much of the haste, but Fire Mage instead. We'll probably be seeing something on the stream today when we're looking at the damage meters. But as what you can see from Bethiluk, looks like the Boomkins are doing quite well AoEing the little lads.
Oh, I remember times when Boomkins were absolutely useless. Can we not just go back to those days? I mean, really now, Druid should be healing.
I think Paragon is quite well known of the Druids, whether it was Ferals or Boomkins. We have used some of them. I mean, Druid is just such a versatile class right now. It's one of the better ones. Now we actually get into the last phase. Looks like the big boss is down and people are starting to get behind the boss to clump up, so we start seeing, if you guys look at the raid frame soon, you're going to start seeing some serious drops. Bloodlust is being
Ember
popped.
Flare, if I recall correctly, that's big AoE fire damage, and I believe that will do around like at least 20,000 of pulse on normal mode, so it's much bigger on heroic.
Let's just put it this way, I think in the end, if they are not using raid damage reduction cooldowns such as powered barrier, the raid is going to be one-shotted.
Ouch.
So let's see how it's going. Right now it still seems very easy. Bloodlust is only 10 seconds left though, and boss is at more than half HP still left. Raid doesn't even get fully topped before a new AoE comes, but let's see.
Yeah, and just to make matters worse, if I recall correctly, there's an ability called the Widow's Kiss, which is it's an incremental healing debuff, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it's been applied to the tanks, and basically this is why you need 2 tanks. I think Widow's Kiss was just applied to a tank and another tank just taunted. The boss also does a lot of tank damage here, so the switch needs to be quite smooth. The healers need to know when the tank switch is coming, and so they can actually... Also, it's quite wise for a tank to use cooldowns. You can see on the frame when Laze is tanking the boss, he's actually dropping quite a bit. But right now, you can see that a raid is already dropping to 30% HP, and there's still 25% of the boss's HP left.
Yeah, fairly stressful for the healers, no real question about that. There we go, there's the AoE heal, Tranquility going down right there.
Yeah, a lot of cooldowns is being used right now, and it actually looks very, very smooth. I would say from looking at this screen right now that I think it is going to be a one-shot.
Yep, it's looking fairly likely at the moment. Boss HP dropping quite rapidly. Nothing really wrong with that, looking at around 10%.
Yeah, now it's the final of the execute time. Tank just torn and instantly dropped to 10% HP. That's basically what I was talking about earlier. But it's just, yeah, too much HP on the raid, too solid. Bubbles are being used now. There's powered barriers down. Boss is dead.
Yep.
Good job.
And that, as they say, is that. There you go. First boss of Firelands down. Now, are you on a DKP system at the moment in regards to this latest and greatest?
Yes. Yes, that is something Paragon does use, even though all guilds and all players do not agree to this, is the most non-dramatic system to use. It's simple. You have money, you buy the things you want, and that's it.
Yeah, and there's no arguments.
Obviously, for example, when we were gearing up for Heroic Ragnaros, those people who weren't exactly on the first skill setup, was no chance for them to pick up loot at that point. But now everything is on farm content, so no one really cares that much.
Yeah,
it's yeah.
Yeah, loot distribution is always a hot topic, regardless of where.
Definitely. I mean, people can say whatever they want. They don't care about loot, but everyone cares about loot. That's just how it is. Yes.
Yeah. And if you say that you don't, then let's be honest, you're kind of lying. But people care about loot to greater or lesser degree.
Yes, that is definitely. Some people make massive drama about it. Some are not so,
Yeah. That was me for 6 years, actually trying to get the Hexus cover from Zul'Gurub, and the damn thing wouldn't drop. It was upsetting, honestly. I was kind of glad that that's actually the one reason why I liked the fact that they remade it, because they then remade that same item, same model. It had Spirit on it. Took it anyway. But
just for the sake of the old days.
Well, to be fair, I was the only clothy there, so it seemed
I
very
see.
reasonable at the time. It's like, I can reforge this. It's okay. It's okay.
Definitely.
So what do you need Spirit as a mage for? Trust me, the looks are worthwhile. Very, very nice item. Now, which boss are you guys going to be going on to next? Because this is not a linear dungeon, is it?
Yeah, you can... Well, yeah, actually, I think everything is spawned. Looks like they are looking for Shannox, waiting for it over here. Shannox actually coming right now. I'm pretty sure pull is going to happen. Boss is incoming right now. I don't know if they are going for it yet, or if there's still bids going on.
Yep, sort the loot out before you want to pull the next boss.
Yeah.
It's always a good idea.
Lazes just said on the chat that he's going to be taking the boss. And I guess it leaves Reaple and Faceta, but looks like the pull didn't happen yet, so we have another round of just waiting on the amazing molten fields and looking at the fiery textures.
Yeah. I liked it when I first went in there, honestly. I thought it's quite nice. They took Molten Core, one of the most boring instances of all time. They took the ceiling off of it, and then they put a nice sky dome in it, but it did still kind of look like MC.
Yeah, just one thing that I really didn't like this. At first, this place had so much trash. I mean, amazingly much. Like, if you look at the previous content, trash was close to non-existent, and this place is huge and full of trash. I mean, it was kind of good that they already did clear all the trash, because the trash actually takes, well, the same time as a couple of bosses here.
Yeah, that's really unusual, considering they made a dungeon with 7 bosses in it. You wouldn't have thought they'd have jam-packed the thing full of trash. There were complaints about Ulduar, even though Ulduar's a great dungeon. It's so long, and it's got a lot of trash in it, and of course it has a huge number of bosses.
Well, yeah, it's understandable. The difference here is, though, there's a lot of trash epics dropping, which also are some of the best in slot loot for some classes, because they can be upgraded later on when you kill the heroic mode bosses and get the firestones. The crystallized firestones are used to upgrade some of the trash loot. It's still not sure whether Blizzard is going to be adding some of the Valor items also to be upgraded, because right now it's only the trash loot, and it's a bit stupid that it's only for few classes.
Right.
I mean, our hunter player Kruff here is probably very happy, because he's got polearm, he's got a bow or crossbow, and anyways a ranged weapon, and also bracers. 3 items for hunter from this trash to be upgraded.
3 items for hunter? That doesn't seem realistic. Last time I checked, all items for the hunter.
Oh, I see. Well, I saw he was looking at the previous items which dropped from the boss, and he was scrolling over everything. Like, maybe I could use this.
That's a hunter
exactly.
Weapon. That's definitely a hunter weapon.
Yeah. It looks like pull is going to happen right now, because we see Paladin going in with the wings up. Some good threat. This boss is not tauntable, so it's quite painful on the pull. If someone is going to be over aggroing, he's pretty much dead.
Yeah. Paladins are such show-offs. Now, Shannox is kind of a hunter boss in the terms of the abilities that Shannox actually uses.
Yeah. He's got
traps.
Yeah, he's got traps, pets, sort of spear throw ability, which, well, I don't know if it's so hunter-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe if you take in some Diablo stuff, sort of, you know, javelin style.
Yeah. Well, it's okay, because the
But,
hunter can throw away their weapon and then just draw one of the 12 that they also have in their bag, so it's alright. Whatever the case, he also has 2 pets. Now, one is called Riplim, which is kind of reasonable, and one is called Rage Face.
Yeah. Basically, the idea is that you have a tank who is tanking Riblimp, and the idea is to trap Riblimp every time before the boss throws the spear, because both the boss and the Riblimp are stacking a damage, like just a stacking damage debuff on both of the tanks, and whenever they get Riblimp trapped, both of the tanks should manage to reset their stacks, and this is basically the main mechanic of the boss. If you have this sorted, the boss is a piss take, because you can see what he's doing, only damaging the boss. For the rest of the fight, that's his job, nothing else.
Yeah.
All he needs to do is avoid the traps on the ground, which is fairly simple. I mean, not standing in the fire is sort of the regular thing to do since the molten core times.
Well, yep. Not standing in the fire is always fun on a dungeon that's completely covered in fire.
Yeah, and then there's Rage Phase, which is also gaining stacks, but Rage Phase is not putting stacks on the player who he's targeting. He's stacking himself with a heavy damage buff. So you also need to take Rage Phase into traps, and the best mechanic to do this is after he does Face Rage, which is his amazingly called ability.
Face Rage?
Yeah. Well, basically, you need to take the boss to trap to reset his stacks, and the best way to do this is after the Face Rage, because then he automatically comes back to the target who broke the Face Rage, and you break it by doing over 40k damage with one shot to him. Well, shot or blast or whatever. We're using Arcane Mage. We should be having one of the Arcane Mages sort of tanking. Right now it looks like our dear Mage Balta is handling the this job, because he seems to be having a debuff from Rage Phase, and Rage Phase does not apply the damage stack to himself when he's doing Face Rage, and he also does not apply when he's in the trap. So first Face Rage and then trap, profit. That's basically how to handle that.
Yep. No one outside of WoW is going to understand a word of what you just said. And I can hardly blame them, considering the terminology Blizzard has decided to use for that ability.
I mean, Riblimp's damage ability is called Limb Rip as well, so...
at least that's practical.
Well, yes.
It's not very imaginative,
fair enough.
But
fair enough. But, yeah. We should have... Most of the crowd should at least know what World of Warcraft is, I mean.
Well, I think so. It would be a little unusual if you didn't, but yeah, they're just watching. It's like, what is this nonsense? What's going on here?
Looks like the boss is going pretty solid right now. HP is already very low, and the boss has already frenzied, actually.
Yeah,
and,
I believe 30%, isn't
yeah,
it?
30%. The boss frenzies and starts doing 30% more damage and 30% higher attack speed. And Bloodlust is 3 seconds remaining. Looks like boss is going down very, very solidly.
Yeah,
there's only 7% of it left right now. And I can hear some shout going on that there's some problems. Ilani's voice seems to be very loud, and he's saying that there's some healing problem, but I think they're managing it okay.
So apparently Paragon's healing problems is everyone's at about 90%, so that's very upsetting to Paragon. Yeah. Perfectionist skills. There you go, folks. There's the second boss down. Nice and easy.
Loads of hunter weapons I see. Some axes and daggers.
Wand in there?
No, I don't think there was a wand.
I was mostly joking. Only
mostly. Oh. Braces of the Dread Hunter. Surprisingly, that is actually not a hunter item.
Colour me shocked. It's not. The thing is, it's not as surprising as you would think, considering the odd names of items sometimes.
Yes.
Anything with the word mage in it ends up being a priest item. So.
Looks like the bird boss is going to be the well-hyped
yes.
Ali's Razor.
Yes. It's an interesting boss in terms of the way that the mechanics work. And it's I think it's a very fun fight to watch. It's very visual. And
Yes.
There's some unusual nonsense going on where basically you go Super Saiyan and fly around in the air. It's a little crazy.
Yes, I think it's one of the better bosses in terms of being fairly simple, but also quite easy to mess up.
Yeah.
What they've added on the boss on heroic mode, and the biggest difference is Firestorm. The boss is molting his feathers every now and then.
Yeah, which you have to pick up in order to get into the air.
Yeah, and on normal mode, this basically does nothing. But on heroic mode, every time this happens, you need to hide behind a meteor to avoid a firestorm. And if you don't, it's sort of Saffron style, get one-shotted.
Die instantly. Yeah.
Yes, even though this doesn't actually one-shot you. So it's, I mean, obviously
That's a bit
later.
disappointing.
Yeah, it's only like 50k a second. So if you're, let's say, standing a bit on the edge, you can oops and just move in.
I suppose that makes sense. I think everyone's had an experience where there's been a boss where they've had to hide behind something, and they're absolutely 110% sure they're behind it. You know, they're literally hugging it. Their face is on the rock, and they take damage anyway. So I suppose it makes sense to not kill you in the first tick.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have, looking at the raid frames, I think we have whole group 3 flying. So that would be 2 Boomkins, Shadow Priest, and 2 mages. Mages are
two flying boomkins. Really.
Yes, flying chickens. Does that not make sense?
Rocket boosters on the back, that kind of thing. Doomkin, we can call them. That works.
Yes, I mean that's what they are the most well known of. Doomkin. I mean,
Doomkin.
back in the days, especially.
Oh yeah, I remember that film from quite a few years ago. In fact, the little animation that Mindflame did about Boomkins. Actually, that was where the name came from, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure they didn't used to call them that before.
If I'm totally honest, I don't remember.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. They had dual plasma cannons and everything. Standard.
Oh yeah, actually, there's something about this in YouTube if people want to check out. I'm pretty sure you're going to be finding out some
look
of this.
for Boomkin, look for Mindflame, search it on YouTube. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Quite a lot of preparations are being made right now. If you're looking at the raid chat, say it's been well, now day comes to ready check. I think we're going to be ready, pulling the boss soon. Basically, we assign the melee sort of to half. Other half on the right side, other half on the left side. Little flaming druid initiates come down and start shooting fire.
Yeah.
This fire needs to be interrupted, and those mobs need to be killed. Melee's what people normally use at this. I don't know if other guilds do it different, but this is how we do it. And then there's the filler people, the ones who are not flying and the ones who are not melee.
The filler people?
Yes.
That's what you call the rest of your raiders, the filler people.
Well, I mean, someone has to do it, but yeah.
I think someone needs to teach you how to be motivational to the rest of your guild, honestly.
Oh,
You've got to make them feel important, make them feel needed. That's
well,
the way you got to do it.
The fillers are needed as well, aren't they? I mean, can't raid with 15.
This is very true, thankfully, these days. I remember the raids of 15 on Molten Core.
Yeah. Actually, though, this boss is one of the bosses where even if 5 people of your raid do die during the encounter, it is still possible to be finished. Because the buff is so huge on the flying people.
There we go. That is Alice Raza, very, very angry Firebird. And she's going to leave these little feathers on the ground right here that have to be picked up.
You need 3 feathers to be able to fly. And if you pick up 1 feather, you're going to get a speed boost, and you're going to be able to cast whilst moving, which is very, very amazing. What happens to me is when I played my mage here, constantly trying to move whilst casting after this boss, and just not happening.
Yeah.
It just sort of gets going on. Here's the meteor, which is the heroic mode ability. It does spawn, and it needs to be killed rather fast, because if you kill it slow and it gets to the edges, it explodes into a little like molten boulders, which do about 50,000 damage.
Ouch.
Approximately, if you get hit by them, which is, yeah, you see there's a lot of fire going around, so that's the hardest part of the encounter, not to get hit by the fire.
Yep.
Which is easy, as I said, but then, of course, if you do stand in it, you're dead, and that's the easy part to fail.
Yep. And those of you in the audience can, of course, watch the monitors. You will see some of these guys airborne and flying through these fiery rings. And why don't you explain a little bit about the firing mechanic?
Basically, you get up in the air, there's these sort of cloud type things which you need to avoid, you take damage from them, and then there's these fire rings. At first I thought it was quite difficult to pick them up, but then after a couple of tries it seemed fairly simple.
Yeah.
You just need to stand very, very close to the boss, like right up his ass, and then you have the buffer time to pick up the rings. And what these rings do is each one of them gives you 8% haste, so now you have 25 of them, and you get a 75% crit buff, going there with 0.2 second cast on your highest cast time spells. And that's basically why Fire Mage is just too powerful, because you just benefit so much from crit, you benefit so much from haste, and the best thing is to go basically arcane gear, so just full mastery.
Yeah.
And leave the crit and haste just totally, that's totally not so important, because your ignite is going to be stacked up on the boss fully, and also when you do combustion it does insane
Ridiculous
damage.
amounts of damage, yes. It will then do an attack that takes up all of those massive fire damage debuffs that you already got on him.
Firestorm is happening actually right now. You can see from the ground where the sort of the wind is coming from.
Yeah.
And this is how you avoid it. No one's died yet. Everything looks all good. One of the initiates was not killed before, but it's being dealt with right now. Now I think this is the last time before the fiery tornadoes, which everyone already knows from the normal mode. So initiate does not spawn on the right side, so he just goes and helps the left side to finish. And why I'm saying left and right, we usually talk about it looking from the entrance, and this is the back side of the boss.
Yeah, it's always useful to have that relative positioning when you're talking to your raid, when you're trying to organize positions. You say, look, right, everything I'm going to say, every command that I'm going to give as a raid leader is going to be relative to this position right here, so you guys don't get confused.
If I'm totally honest though, like, sometimes it's easier to just use east, west, south, north, but we have had some failures towards this. It's just simply easier to understand left or right.
So you've started to distribute compasses to the members of your raid so they can learn how that works.
For some people this has been actually difficult. Now this is the tornado phase. Here you just... The best thing is to do what Kruff is doing right now. Sort of try and follow these tornadoes. If you want to squeeze out a little bit more damage, you would go for the fiery rings. They are the same which spawn up there for the flyers, but Kruff is taking it safe, no risks, no damage whoring, just going to play it safe. And now it's the burn phase. Alice Razor is taking 50% more damage for as long as he's on the ground. Everyone's stacking on the blue mark, getting into position right behind the boss. Bloodlust should be popped. It's not popped yet. I don't know what is going on with that. Someone is not doing what they are supposed to do. Now right there it is, about 10 seconds late. But it is there. And they should be getting the boss to approximately 50% at this point. Probably even lower, definitely lower. The gear does do its thing. It's 48% already. Now the boss is gaining full energy, and when the boss is full energy, it's going to throw everyone sort of like at the start where they started the fight. And
that big knockback damage.
Yes, it's good to use some sort of cooldown for that. Raid Ward from the Paladin, or Last Stand from the Warrior, or something. Now, since everyone's still alive, if no one does any sort of insane mistakes, I am pretty sure that the boss is going to be down on 2 goes. And if you're looking at the damage meter, it looks actually at the Shadow Priest. The legendary Usto is doing its thing and topping the meters. There is Fire Mage quite close and a Boomkin quite close.
Oh, we can't let the Boomkin get top again. They'll think that they're legitimate.
We will see. We will see. I think Lappe is quite confident in himself, but the pressure of Usso is... I mean, I'm pretty sure if we ask here from the crowd, how many people do know the legendary Usso Taunta thing from the Lich King Heroic?
Some
Raise your
do.
hands.
That's quite a lot.
That's nearly half.
That's pretty impressive. Famous.
So, we will see how it's going to end up. There's one more round to fly. There's no more bloodlust, but for these people who are flying, they already have pretty much capped haste, so it does not make does not make a blind bit of difference actually. And there's the Firestorm now quite early. This is actually one of the hardest parts of the encounter. There we see Gero dead. There's actually Tank dead as well.
Nasty.
He can be rest. Tank is going to be combat rest if they're just going to do it fast enough, I'm pretty sure. We still have one tank left, but Laze needs to be combat rest immediately. It's not happening right now. Without the rest, it's still doable.
Well, it's always nice to put a little bit of challenge into the encounter, isn't it?
The other tank can pick up both of the birds right now. That did happen actually, and I think what they're calling it right now is for the flyers to help out on the birds, so they will actually die, because now Say is going to be taking huge amount of damage since he has 2 birds knocking him down instead of 1.
Yeah, those birds actually imprint. They refuse.
This is one of the main tank healers dead from Fire Blast now, since we have some of the melee dead. Interrupting is not how it's supposed to be. There's some massive panic going on if you're listening to people from the sides. I would say that it's going to be a wipe.
It's getting towards being a wipe, yeah.
I think we're pretty much done. This is what I mean. It was just a bit too late going for the Firestorm. Couple of key players died, and game over.
Well, there we go, first wipe right there on us, rather. Whatever the case, talk to me about Firestorm. What is it that makes Firestorm such a nasty prospect later on?
Basically, I'm not totally 100% on this, but it looks like it's a bit out of sync with how the mobs work. Like, you need a bit better DPS on the first wave after the burn phase. Okay. Also, the difference is that everyone uses their cooldown, like...
They pop all the cooldowns to the burn phase.
On the burn phase, then they have nothing. Yeah, then they have nothing left for when the initiates are spawned. And how you start the fight, you pop all your cooldowns, so you have them up for the burn phase again.
Yeah.
So then these initiates die 10-20% slower, and then people don't sort of realize that, hey guys, it's Firestorm, so we need to be already moving.
Yeah.
And then if the meteor has been killed slowly, for example, it's going to be totally on the other side of the room, and it's going to be hard to actually get there in time, even if you're just noticing it.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense, and it's interesting to see how delicate a balance it really is, even to kill a boss that you yourself have said is certainly not the hardest boss in here by any stretch. But
it's one of the easiest.
You should never underestimate anything in this heroic level content that's actually on the bleeding edge at the moment. So
yeah, it's mostly when you take the overconfident attitude, I think it might not end so well.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's a fairly reasonable thing to say. And while we're waiting to go back on this and talking about a little bit of a more general topic, so there's been a bit of a debate about 10 and 25-man modes. Did you guys ever bother actually doing the 10-man mode in this, or have you been 25 the entire way through? So what would you say the difference between the two was? Because I know they've had to make some really serious changes.
Basically, we did kill Ragnar's 25 heroic, and after that, just to sort of show everyone up, we also did the 10-man right after.
Okay.
We killed heroic Ragnar's 25-man on the Tuesday, and Wednesday there was already a group of people going for the 10-man heroic.
Okay.
We did make sort of the best kind of setup group for 10-man. Maybe not everyone does have the chance to do this, but I would say that every single boss there did die within a couple of pulls, and Ragnaros, instead of 500 pulls, took like less than 30. It's just basically the DPS check is completely missing from the 10-man content.
Okay.
some of it is due to the chance that you have on getting loot. Like, if you're purely only running 10-man, you're
getting a lot less loot overall.
Well, you're getting sort of the same amount compared to how many players you have, but the chance of getting the specific loot from the huge loot table is a lot lower. You should be running 3 10-mans to get the same amount of chance on getting the loot as you do from
125.
Yes, yes. So that is why that's one of the bigger differences. But 10-man is just simply easier to control. Like, it's really very simple to control. It's easier to point out who made a mistake, why did it happen, what we're going to change on the next pull. It's easier to work as a 10-man team than a 25-man team as well. So all this kind of stuff is always going to be easier the less people you have involved.
Yeah. In your experience, bearing in mind that now you've done the cutting edge of the first tier and now cutting edge of the second tier of content, how do you think Blizzard's really done with their new idea of fully balancing 10 and 25-man mode to be equivalent, so they say?
Pretty... I don't know. It's pretty bad, if I'm totally honest, because... I don't know, the 10-man is just missing some of the stuff, like... I mean, it's sort of cool, but one thing that I sort of, for example, don't really agree with is that on 10-man, it takes 16 weeks to get a legendary staff.
Right.
Now, that is really a very long time, if you think about it. It takes 3 times less than a 25-man. So, I don't know. It's sort of cool that we don't have to run 3 or 4 10-mans a week, but at the same time, those who are running 10-man, they're going to be having sort of like 2 people max with the legendary before next content.
Yeah.
And we're going to be having the whole raid full of them.
Yeah.
So
stacked full of legendary items.
I can already see the wine coming. I can already see the wine coming. Paragon running a raid with people like casters with legendary only.
With the hunters running around with legendary staffs, it's going to be happening. But yeah, it is odd, really, that one, you can actually fill an entire raid full of legendary staffs. I mean, that in itself seems to be fairly ridiculous. It's the same idea as running around with your entire raid, including your rogues, your paladins, your tanks, with Thunder Fury. That never happened.
Yeah.
You know why that never happened, of course, because of the nature of it. But do you agree in general with the way that they've actually structured the legendaries in, I would say, Wrath going forward, I suppose?
Yes, it's very nice. This whole RNG stuff that was happening in Vanilla and stuff, that was absolutely ridiculous. Some guilds had tons of them and some just didn't have any.
Oh yeah, we had about, I think, 6 or 7 of the left bracer and none of the right. So.
Yeah, exactly. I had exactly the other way around. Guard bracers, loads of them, and just none of the other ones, never. So
yeah, that system is a bit awful. Although I have to wonder. Yes, you're saying this is better, and I would agree in terms of it being more reliable. But is it really legendary?
I would say that it's maybe a bit too easy to get. I think there should be some sort of quest which would actually require maybe even a bit of skill to do, or at least something, because right now it's just collect stuff, kill the boss, profit.
I remember the hunter staff, actually, and the
it used to be
Lock the Law, things like that.
Yeah.
That was hard. That was really difficult to pull off.
I actually remember there were people asking for the top guild hunters to play their characters, so they would get their staffs fixed, because otherwise they would have not gotten it. Obviously, though, back then also the player base was really quite terrible, if I'm totally honest, compared to what it is right now.
Yeah, well, it didn't understand mechanics in the same way that it does now. That I think anyone that really argues that, say, this heroic content you're seeing right now is like, oh, wow, we did Major Domo executors back in Molten Core was much, much harder than this. No, it wasn't. If you actually go back to that, you see the mechanics are more simplistic than the current 5-mans.
Yeah, definitely.
And it came down to a lack of understanding. We didn't know everything about the game at that point, and we certainly kind of do now. So it's interesting to see that we still believe the player base is bad, and I suppose to some degree there are quite a few people that you will see, and everyone's had this experience with somebody in a pug that has no idea what they're doing. Maybe they've run in there and somebody's just taken the tank slot because they wanted to pop the queue. It's like, well, I actually don't have any tanking gear, and I don't know how to tank, but it's okay, guys, because I'm sure some other of you can tank. Oh, wait, you're all wearing cloth armor? Well, that could be difficult, couldn't it? But, yeah. It is problematic, but I don't think anyone sane would believe that the player base knows less about mechanics than they did back in vanilla.
No, definitely. I mean, huge amount of people don't even join these random stuff because they already have their own crew to do this stuff with.
It's the right way to do it, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, definitely. It looks like on the fight right now, there is some complications.
It would appear so. There's somebody dead already.
Yeah, actually, a couple of people have already died. One of the tanks as well has died. Comp addresses have been used. And I think that the raid group actually is out of comp addresses right now. Or they don't consider this flying mage very important. It's either one.
Well, they don't want him getting to the top of the damage meter. That's the problem. That was obviously deliberate from them.
It still looks like Uso is keeping the top spot, being the Shadow Priest in the raid. We'll see how it's going to end up. Now it's going to be coming back to the last try's wipe spot.
Yeah, this big problem right here. And with one down already, that's going to make things a little bit tricky.
We will see how it's going to end. Kruff is putting a trap in the middle to slow down the meteor. That's going to be sort of the next step of the fight. The meteor should die as fast as possible, so we would get it in the middle. Let's see, it's grooming. Looks like there's some targeting problems. Meteor is going down quite fast.
Yeah.
Fast enough, definitely.
Not a problem.
Should not be a problem for the people to run from either side. It's sort of in the middle. And now just handling... This initiate here has already spawned before the last one died. And now...
It's going to be a case of nailing it all down before the firestorm comes and kills the raid again, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. And now it looks like the firestorm timer is not even being shown. So we don't really know. So now Kruff is taking it safe and already starting to move towards the meteor.
That's always fun.
Being an Imba ranged.
That's not a good place to stand, good lord.
No, the firestorm is coming from the right side. And some of the people are taking quite a lot of damage. Some people dead. Tank dead again. What is Laze doing? This is like his...
You're going to have to go over there and give him a pep talk, man, obviously.
Third death here?
Things are going horribly wrong on this particular fight.
But,
every now and again, I suppose this has to happen, where even a fight that you consider fairly simple.
It's hard to say, though, if it was his mistake or a healer mistake. Was there just not enough cooldowns to use on him? These mobs do enrage when there's no worm to eat. Like, these birds get this enrage buff, and when you eat a worm from the ground, they get soothed out.
Yeah, for the time being.
Yes. And as you go in for the firestorm to hide behind a meteor, the bird usually doesn't rage, and that's when usually you use stuff like shield wall. Bop also works perfectly fine on this, and I don't know if no cooldown was used or what was the case, but...
Well, they do seem to have stabilized for the time being. There is 5 down, and you said before this fight even began, this is the kind of fight where, yes, you can beat it with 5 people dead.
This is still doable, I would say, if just more people don't die. One of the healers is dead. Looks like 3 of the flyers are in the air. Lappe the Boomkin is having the crit buff as well already at this point. Now the Firestorm, let's see if more people are going to die. Say it's taking huge damage right now. He seems to be... His health is spiking.
Yep.
Constantly 50%, 10%.
Very low right there. He's okay, he's alright.
Bop was used. There you go, the Forbearance buff was saved by this. Few more to go. Now it's getting easier with the initiates and stuff, so people can start focusing more on the actual hatchlings, which are going to be the key part right now, seeing as we only have 1 tank.
Yep, that gets tricky. They need to nuke those down as quickly as possible, make sure they're not ripping the tank. But that tank goes, that is basically it, and that will be another wipe, so they'll have to keep focusing.
There's still a chance that if they don't make it during the next burn phase, the flyers can still go up in the air, and whilst they are there, everyone can wipe on the ground, and they're still doing huge damage to the boss, so they can just finish
from the sky, basically.
Yes, they can still finish it from the sky, so We just
God,
saw.
if the Boomkin saves this raid, this is going to be terrible.
He is currently topping the damage meter quite heavily.
No.
He is currently quite heavily on the top, with second Boomkin sort of following.
This is what happens when you give a class dual plasma cannons. It's to be expected.
Especially on a fight where you can also fly and shoot whilst moving.
Yeah, it is pretty ridiculous. It's actually a lot of fun to do once you get the hang of the controls. Blizzard, I don't think, really designed WoW in mind 6 years ago with the idea of you flying around shooting fireballs from the air.
Yeah.
So now here's the burn phase. Let's see how much damage they can do.
It's only 25% left of the boss.
They should be all right here, but they don't have Bloodlust. That's something to consider.
Nope, and 10%, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players are dead. So, you know.
Yep, time to hit it as hard as humanly possible.
This is to be seen now.
Well, the health is dropping fairly rapidly considering the size of the group is notably diminished. You said you could do this with 5 dead. Let's see if you can do it with 7. We're about to find out.
Yeah, 50% already getting up. This is definitely going to be very difficult. We'll see how healers are going to manage healing this massive AoE damage coming up right now. We'll see if they have fixed for a 5th person to go flying now, because I would say that would be
the best idea
to do, so that the people up there would kill the boss whilst people were just sort of trying to survive downstairs. And once they would die, the boss would be at approximately 5%, and then they would just finish it off up in the air.
All credit to the healers. They believe they did.
They did
one guy.
Job.
Yeah,
yes.
They did a good job of holding that together. 8 people dead now out of 25, which is an extremely large number considering. So this is going to be tricky. But as you said, the way that the mechanics are set up in this fight, it's still possible to do.
Yep, 9% now on the boss. I don't know what orders have been given on TeamSpeak. Maybe they already said that everyone possible should be shooting the boss. But I don't know. I guess we are to see. Looks like Balta has gone up in the air as well, flying like I thought, 5th person. So we do have 5 flyers right now going up and picking up the damage buff. Hopefully they can finish the bird off.
Yep, in the meantime, these guys on the ground are sacrificial lambs.
Yep, Sata's HP is dropping. He's dead.
Splat.
Now it's just a matter of time whether the people at the top can manage, because everyone on the bottom are going to die right now.
Yep, there goes the hunter.
They're getting shot by this fire staff from the ground now. Now they need to hide also from the firestorm. 2 people standing. The Boomkin is actually there, and the Boomkin is last man standing, but just not enough.
No,
just not enough.
That's a tricky-looking fight, even though it said there seems to be the real possibility for horrible things to happen in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, half the fight was done with only 1 tank. That is already quite well done.
Very true. It's rather difficult to do any kind of 25-man contact with only 1 tank.
Yes, especially the one which is sort of... also, the thing here is that I do believe that the tank is wearing half DPS gear to make sure that he can kill this hatchling sword on its own, because everyone else has the job. The tank is getting 500% damage buff to deal with the mob.
Yeah, it's the so-called imprint.
Yes.
The idea being that the mob will attach to the first thing that hits it, and then it's not going to leave at all.
Exactly. That's why also hand of protection and stuff like that can be used, because it's full-time fixate. So even if hand of protection is being used, the mobs still keep hitting.
Yeah, and the aggro list is irrelevant in that
yes.
regard.
Yes.
Word yourself one of those lava giants. Don't want to run into that.
No, it's the corpse run is being a bit longer now, because they did not clear the mobs sort of the shortest way, since this was the fastest way to go through the bosses.
Yeah, yeah.
So it just looks like they have to take the longer way. Don't think this much of wiping was actually expected at Alice Razor.
No,
I was actually thinking that this would be one of the cakewalks. I was thinking Bethlak would be a lot harder, actually, but it seemed to be different. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, you absolutely annihilated Bethlak, and now you're struggling on Alice Razor, but that really shouldn't surprise anyone. No doubt every one of you who's done a raid has always thought, well, this is going to be the nice, easy farm boss who's going to breeze through this, and then suddenly horrible things happen, and it just doesn't go the way that you plan it to.
I mean, anything can actually happen here. That's basically the thing about heroic modes in general. Just a little mistake can sort of totally mess it up. And this is the thing, people argue with 10 and 25 man that on 10 man if someone makes a mistake, it's a wipe. Well, on many bosses with the new 25 man heroic, it is as well. So
it's problematic. Whatever the case, I just want to ask you about the general difficulty of this heroic mode in the latest content. Obviously, Ragnaros was an absolute nightmare for you, as you've said before.
Yeah.
The question is, what about the rest of it? Was that up to par?
Well, it was, as I said earlier, I would say it was pretty easy, like the rest of it, sort of.
In comparison?
Yes, was quite easy. But also, we had done some testing on the PTR already, so it wasn't full-on fair. Even though everyone else could have done the same, so it's not, you know,
yes.
we didn't exactly
Rumors about your
or...
particular private test realm for your guild have been greatly exaggerated. That doesn't actually happen.
No, it's not like that at all. We just do the stuff that everyone else can do as well. Maybe we do it more, maybe we do it better, but, well...
That's just the way that it is. And it is still really unfortunate that high-end guilds have to do the PTR in order to actually be competitive.
Actually, I do agree, and why is because I hate PTR. I hate the lag, US servers, and it's just, yeah, not really... So, it's just, I just don't like playing with like a 50% capacity sort of from what I could do.
Yeah.
That's why if you manage to kill a boss on PTR, it's quite certain that you're going to manage to kill it on the live quite easily. And this is an advantage and a disadvantage for the US players, because they have an advantage on the PTR. When they go live, if they didn't manage it there, they might have problems when it comes live. For us instead, if we don't exactly manage it there, we might still manage it quite well on live.
Yeah, that's assuming that you're able to stay on the server for more than 10 minutes without being disconnected.
We actually have quite, Linux plays quite, quite empty server for the reason we don't want to go into some very high populated server. So this
I think a lot of people probably remember the drama of Nihilum and of course Insidia back in the day, where they were on a massive server and all sorts of nonsense was going on there.
Yeah, phishing macros, crashing servers.
Yeah, I heard about that.
All this stuff. I don't actually still know how much of it was actually really true. Phishing macro crashing the server.
I believe it was true, actually, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
it could have been done.
All kinds of stuff can be happening when we talk about the interwebs.
Yes, that's very true as well, and that's of course why that. I believe that rumor that came from an April Fool's post by you guys, didn't it, or something along those lines, that you have a private test realm.
I'm not sure. Might have been. There was also a lot of trolling going around on the general forums, MMO Champion, WoW general forums about us having Blizzard private stuff and whatever, because we were invited to the BlizzCon last year.
Yeah, which obviously means that you're being given all the strats beforehand, a private test. Yeah. You're probably paid, actually. I think you're playing on computers made of gold.
Yeah, Blizzard paying us huge amount just to, you know, do this all. And yes.
Standard Battle.net forums accusations there.
Yes.
I think that there's sadly a very small vocal minority, but very loud vocal minority of people that feel the need to make excuses for why they're not doing as well as Paragon. It might be because, one, they're terrible, and two, maybe they're playing about 20 minutes a day and they're not actually able to or willing to put in the time. And there's nothing wrong with that, just don't make excuses.
Exactly. That's I totally agree with that.
I just wish some people, and know that everyone in this audience is absolutely fine with this, just playing at your own pace and actually enjoying your own personal achievements rather than trying to tear down everyone else's.
Yeah, that's the thing why in general I don't understand about people. Why do they have to be jealous of something that they don't have, rather than being just happy about the things that they do actually have?
Yeah, this is a real problem with World of Warcraft. Now, I think it comes down to the entitlement of people paying for it.
I guess so.
They feel that they're perhaps entitled to all of this stuff because they do pay the subscription fee, and as a direct result, they expect to be handed things on a silver platter. And I suppose it's good that we can still turn around and say that it's a vocal minority. We certainly hope that it is.
And as it's looking right now, most of these things are getting handed to them. with a
Yeah.
silver platter. Because if you look at how easy it is to get gear and stuff nowadays, it wasn't like this in vanilla. I remember the days
It wasn't this
when
TBC
I had
either, yeah.
no. I remember the days when I had best in slot gear, and someone could instantly see from which guild I was from just by looking at my character. Right now, well, okay, you can look at a character, and if he looks like a troll, he's probably just an ZG, ZA type stuff. But still, the difference is not so huge from, I mean, compared to what you can actually achieve.
Yeah, it's interesting why they did that. I understand the reasoning behind it, because back in vanilla it was to some degree a problem, and in TBC as well. TBC, before they removed the attunements, for instance, became a little tricky for a new recruit into a guild if they weren't already attuned.
Yeah,
And good luck getting
yeah.
into a raiding guild. And there were raiding guilds that did take them,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was a reduced number, certainly.
Yeah, and also the attunement stuff was sort of, I don't know how to say, just the fact that you had to run old content.
It was a massively linear system.
That was
wasn't it?
just a bit, I don't know, I wasn't a fan of that.
Yeah, I think it gave kind of a nice directed experience, and I can see, however, why people wouldn't have enjoyed it. It's such a hard balance. I don't think there's any right answer to it, honestly. Some people will
No, some
disagree
people,
one way or the
yeah,
other.
exactly. Some people are going to say it was good, and some people are going to say it was bad. I mean, it did sort of take out the less dedicated people who did not work towards the achievements. But then again, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I would just like to log in the game and just play the game, rather than trying to think of it as my work.
Yeah, I can understand that. But whatever the case, this is the system we've currently got now, and the content being only 7 bosses, did that actually disappoint you in any way, or was that alright simply because you knew that, hey, we can at least clear the dungeon, get it on farm, we're not going to have to work too
Yeah,
hard?
I totally like this 7 boss. I mean, if it was 17 boss, it would just have taken too long time. I do like this 7 boss system. It was over and done with quite fast, and now I can enjoy a little bit of free time rather than having to play 12 hours a day non-stop, you know, trying to beat other people on the world first.
Yep. I suppose the follow-up question to that would be, do you not worry that you're going to get bored? You're doing the same content over and over again. We don't know when the next raid is coming out at this point.
Well, normally this goes quite smooth and quite fast, so like doing 1 raid a week is not really such a big chore. It's even pleasant at times. I mean, we haven't really been raiding Firelands for that long yet, and at least as long as there's some loot, fill your bags with,
Yeah.
it's up to pleasant, I would say.
Yeah. I just think it's a really unfortunate situation that a lot of guilds want to be able to get this on farm so they can play less, and which seems to me to be a really odd thing with a game that supposedly people enjoy, that they don't want to play as much of it.
I think it's the problem of how the game is made and sort of the esports style of the game. I mean, we don't exactly get anything for just playing the game.
Yeah.
We just get for doing the achievements, being world first and stuff like that. And now that's done. So now we just have to make sure that in next content we have the best possibility to, you know, be world first.
Yeah.
So this stuff is sort of boring and doesn't really matter that much as long as it gets done.
That's fair enough. I have to wonder how other people's attitudes actually are to this, though, because I would think the competitive mindset in your guild is very different to the majority of guilds. And it's because of your
Most
competitive
likely.
mindset that you succeed.
Most
But
likely.
what about other people that are doing this content over and over and over again? And we had problems particularly with Wrath. You remember the first 6 months of Wrath.
Oh, yeah.
Where people unsubbed in droves because they beat Naxxramas in a week.
Yeah.
And they had absolutely nothing to do on the raid
Yeah,
side
that
of
was just
things.
too easy. That was just, I mean, that was stuff that you had, first of all, seen before,
Yep.
and then remade into a just really, really easy stuff.
Yeah, that was not a pleasant thing at all. I would not like to see that ever again, in fact. And unfortunately, we did see some remakes with the Zolomon's Ultra.
Yeah, though being a 5-man, I don't think
It's
it
not as
does
bad.
matter that much, seeing as it's not something to really speak about as a raiding content and stuff.
I suppose the main problem with that is that people are encouraged to run one of those 2 dungeons every single day. Is there even anyone in the audience that still actually wants to go into Zul'Gurub or Zul'Aman? Raise your hands. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Don't see any.
No,
Don't see any hands.
Is anyone surprised? It's the same dungeon over and over again. Why would you want to do that? And this tiering the heroics, to me, in 5-mans seems to be ridiculous, honestly.
It just... The one good thing about it is, I do agree, though. It's a chance for you to keep your